Moving ahead, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker, Adil Hassan. Harvest Gold was founded in 1993 by Adil Hassan, a chemical engineer from IIT Delhi, along with his wife and director Taab Siddiqui, MBA alumni of Aligarh University. The first plant was set up by Hassan with an initial investment of rupees 1 crore in Bhiwani, Rajasthan. This plant commenced production in June 1993 and was named Harvest Gold Foods India Private Limited. Initially, Harvest Gold faced serious troubles ranging from inadequate machinery to lack of distribution networks. However, Hassan used methods like traditional iron crates and rack rotation to provide high quality products. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Radhil. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a round of applause for both our
Guys,
guests?
more energy in the room. Right? We need more energy.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Adil, for coming on a morning to talk to all of us. Adil's story and insights are very, very interesting. We're going to learn a lot in this session. So, guys, pay close attention to somebody who's created wealth, built a company ground up, and exited. And so, therefore, seen real money after building a company, which is, I think, the hope and aspiration of most founders, right, to be wealth creators. So, Adil, I'll really start from the very beginning. Why bread? You went to IIT. Do IITians want to make bread?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here with you. Um, there are two parts to the answer that you're looking for. Industrial manufacturing of bread is an extremely complex technical process. The plants that manufacture good bread are very complicated, very complex, very technically evolved, and incidentally, they're process engineering plants, which is what I graduated as. So I'm actually a chemical engineer, and process engineering is part of that. So yes, from that perspective, and there's a little more to that. There's a lot more around any company, whether it's apps or the software that runs these companies. So all these things combined, there are technical aspects to a company. There are technical aspects to bread manufacturing, which obviously mean that an engineering degree does help. So that's one aspect to it. The second and more important aspect is that opportunity does not present itself necessarily in defined ways. So if bread was the opportunity, how did it come up? In 1989, when I had just exited my first startup, it was a telecom company. I was looking for the next best thing, a big thing, and there was no good bread to be found. I mean, the bread that one got in the market was awful quality. And I used to tell my wife, yaar, ye dhang ki koi bread kyun nahi banata? And so when we started looking for something, we said, okay, let's explore this opportunity and let's see if we can capitalize on it. So that's the second part of what you're looking for. What is the opportunity? What is it that the market needs?
So, for a lot of founders, they're told that don't go into a business where they're already very, very large legacy players because, to build and to go up against them, and especially in something as complex, because your delivery, getting it to the customer was it's so complex, right? I mean, I understand a little bit about how bread gets to the stores, the wastage. But I just want to restrict myself first to this question: that why did you want to go up against big? I mean, we had legacy players at that time.
When we first looked at the opportunity, we were told that we were fools, and everybody in the industry that I started talking to said that they pointed out the fact that it was a very mature market. There were these two very large institutional players who had been in the market for 2-3 decades. The market was supposedly saturated. So what the hell are you going to do in that? Was the question to me. And for us, what we saw was what the existing players didn't see. They sold a bad quality product which catered to the mass market. And what we aspired was this opportunity where we thought we'll make a better product, price it a little higher than the rest of the market, and give some of the customers that were looking for a better product a better product. So we went against the conventional thought process, and it was so successful that over the years we eventually dethroned both these companies. In fact, we became the largest bread manufacturer in the country from a volumes perspective, definitely the largest in the NCR, the leader in many, many other important areas of the industry. So the lesson here is that you must be sure of what is the opportunity that you're looking at. You must be sure about yourself. If you're going to listen to everybody else, then obviously, that is not going to work.
It's always good. It feels good to prove people wrong. But talk to us a little bit about distribution. I mean, bread distribution is extremely, extremely difficult. In general, to open, distribution in general trade. I think at that time there was hardly any modern trade. So how did that work? What did you do about wastages? How did you control that?
Okay, so there are, if you look at our story, what are the two main hallmarks that define a consumer product? The two hallmarks are the brand and the distribution. And I think we designed and planned the whole thing right from the beginning, where we sort of ticked everything in the box. Here was a market that was serviced by these two large companies which were using a certain packaging, which was a very dull, wax paper kind of packaging, didn't stand out. So we bought in a brilliant multicolored polythene packaging. We gave it a different name. We had designers come in, do the designing for us. We positioned it at 7 rupees. Everybody else was at 5 rupees. So here we have a product where the branding and the positioning are very well defined. Okay, so they're very important aspect that we covered there by design, and it worked. And the second very, very, very important aspect here was that because the existing companies, by dint of their dominant position in the market, were not paying attention to the distribution. What they were doing is they were going through distributors. And what we saw there was an opportunity. So we said, look, let's bypass these distributors. Let us go directly to the retailers. And that was unique to us then, remains unique to us till date. And the only other company that does that is the global market leader, Grupo Bimbo, which bought our company. That is how important a role it has played.
My goodness, how did you survive bypassing the distributors? But then opening up the retailers must have, did you have a very large sales force to open retailers directly? What was the credit period you had to sort of offer? And then what did that do to your cash flows?
So if you looked at what the retailers wanted, they were fed up of the distributors. I'm talking about those times. They were fed up of the distributors not paying sufficient attention to what their requirements were. And they were very, very happy to have us come directly to their stores and deliver directly. Okay, so I think it was a requirement that was missing, was fulfilled by us. So that's point one. The second part was, remember, this is a product. I am priced at 7 rupees. Everybody else is at 5 rupees. They are paying 15 paisa. And these are times, we're talking about 1993. So bear with me on these prices seem odd. But everybody else were paying 15 paisa. We're paying 60 paisa to the retailer. Which product do you think he's going to push? He is getting delivery at his doorstep. Usko koi maal de nahi raha hai. Hum de rahe hain. Upar se usko 4 guna paise de rahe hain. We cleaned out, Gurgaon was our test market in June of 1993. That market was 200 crates of bread a day. Again, everybody cleaned out in about a month. Whatever capacity we had limited capacity. We were sold out. I had 200 guys sitting in front of my office in the morning at 5 o'clock. Because we positioned it right, we met an unfulfilled need. Not only for the consumer, but also for the retailer.
So, talk to us about cash flow. What kind of credit did you have to give? What did that do to your cash flow? How did you sort of make up the deficit?
So there was no cash flow problems, and I'll tell you why. Again, because we were buying our raw material on credit of 15 to 30 days, and we were selling in hard cash. And that was not just then, that has continued through our entire history. In fact, at a later stage, we actually had people give us deposits. So when the Mexican company bought us out, they were quite surprised because that's a global first. He was saying nobody in the world takes deposits from their retailers. Harvest Gold did. So we were, it was raining cash. And so we never had cash flow problems. In fact, the money that we were earning, we put it back into R&D. And that's another story. And that helped grow the company very rapidly.
So, what kind of CAGR of growth were you at starting from zero to the time that you exited?
I don't know the CAGR, but so here is the problem. The problem was that the capacities that we had, there were two problems actually. One is that the capacities that we had initially, we ran out very quickly. We ran out in 1 month, in fact. And so the challenge was, okay, अब और capacity कैसे बढ़ाएं, ठीक है? So that held us back in terms of CAGR. It took us some time. You can't just go in and say, I'm going to put up a plant tomorrow in 1 month. It would take a year and a half. So that is what held us back. The other thing that held us back was that the technology that we had in the beginning was, let's say, inappropriate technology. We had bought it from, we couldn't afford foreign machines, okay? They were too expensive. They were not financially viable. So we bought Indian machines, which had a lot of problems, a lot of limitations in multiple different ways. They were copies of 1930s British designs. So one problem that we sort of recognized very early in our history was, और वो हमारे पास भी यही प्रॉब्लम सामने आनी शुरू हो गई कि हमारे पास भी टेक्नोलॉजी ऐसी ही थी जो बाजार में मिल रही थी, वो ले ली. Now we have a problem where 50% of the time we're making great bread and 50% of the time we don't know what the hell has happened. And so we realized कि यार ये हमारा भी वही हाल होने वाला है जो इन बाकी लोगों का हुआ, क्योंकि अगर quality of the product is not there, then at some point people are going to say, I don't want to buy this product. So we then put together an engineering team, which we couldn't afford foreign machines. So what we did was we did the next best thing. We went out to the scrap yards in Europe. We bought second-hand machines and we bought them back. We put an engineering team together. We got some retired British experts to work with us. People who were in their 80s who'd invented some of this equipment in the 50s. वो लोग हमारे साथ आके उन्होंने काम किया. And so we slowly redesigned the machines over a period of 10, 15 years. And redesigning and rebuilding machines is not an easy task, but it gave us a huge advantage over time. It continued to allow us to have a competitive advantage, which allowed us to retain great quality. But it also held us growth back. So while, we grew reasonably well, we could have grown far faster had we had the technology right in the beginning. So there are two sides to it. And some of it is good because ultimately, we developed technology which was great.
So there are a lot of young people in the room, and a very hot topic of conversation is work-life balance. So when you were building Harvest Gold, how many hours in a day did you work? And what did you recommend to all the founders in the room? How many hours do you need to work?
So I'll be honest with you. Look, it's very politically correct to say कि work-life balance होना चाहिए, but you're creating something from zero. There is no work-life balance. Okay, if you are going to get caught up by these buzzwords, the startup world is not for you, in my opinion, because you are creating something out of nothing, literally, and to do that takes a lot of effort. It takes almost superhuman effort. And therefore, I think, there are times when I have worked, I remember in the early days in 1993, there were times when I didn't sleep 3 din tak, because the equipment was so complicated. Bread making is a product that you have to get to the market. So I remember 3 din jaage hue hain, equipment theek ho raha hai, all that. So there is, in my worldview and what I have gone through, is that work-life balance is is a luxury that at least in the beginning you should not really be thinking of.
So three straight nights without sleeping. और जब IIT का एग्जाम क्रैक कर रहा था कितने घंटे पढ़ाई करी थी?
IIT के एग्जाम के टाइम भी इतनी मेहनत नहीं करनी पड़ी थी, और जिस इंडस्ट्री से मैं आया था, मैं नौकरी करता था बाहर. आई यूज्ड टू वर्क फॉर एन ऑयल फील्ड कंपनी कॉल्ड Schlumberger. वहाँ पर ये 2-2, 3-3 जागना आम था. But वहाँ there was one of the things is when you work for a large company, you may have to put in these kind of hours at times for whatever reason. But one thing that you are not scared of is कि यार कंपनी डूब तो नहीं जाएगी. With your own company, 3 दिन तक bread अगर नहीं जाएगी market में, you're dead. So there is always that sword hanging over your head.
So how did you manage with the stress कि तनख्वाह देनी है, bread market में जानी है, collections करने हैं? तो again, stress is a big topic of conversation among young people and founders.
Yes, so you have to deal with it. Stress is, we never had financial stress. We were lucky because we always did extremely well financially. But there were all other stresses. Machine खराब हो गई, machine सही नहीं है, लोग भाग गए. Lots of things happening which obviously make running a company extremely challenging. And you take it as you come. So, if you're young, you can handle the stress reasonably well. As you get older, it becomes more difficult. And obviously, you have to look after your health. You have to, I think, retaining, ensuring that you remain fit is huge in terms of how you handle stress. So that's what my advice to you would be, make sure you're physically fit, okay? And that will help you in multiple different ways, including handling stress.
So we'll get back to the business part of it. Building a brand is very, very tough and expensive. So how did you do it? How much capital did you set aside to build the brand?
So building a brand is not only expensive, it's also time consuming. And I think, again, one defining feature of entrepreneurship is innovation. Okay. पैसा नहीं है आपके पास, resources नहीं है, manpower नहीं है. People may not want to work for you because you're a small company, and so you have multiple challenges. How do you manage the brand building exercise with all of that? I think one is that we were lucky in the beginning that we positioned the product very, I think, appropriately with which is what I just shared with you earlier. कि उसका पैसा, the premiumization of the product, in its packaging, in its pricing, in the way it was distributed. So all that was handled reasonably well. But at some point we realized 5 or 7 years into the game, there was a lot of Me Too products springing up. And therefore we needed to create a very strong brand equity. And one way we did that was we worked with Sohail Seth, I think you're aware of the gentleman's name, and his company. And we created a very innovative marketing campaign. Early 2000s, there was these cinema complexes, PVR in particular, started coming up. So on the back page, there was this, everybody would look up the back page. So we went in with a campaign where there would be a limerick on current times. It was called Bakwas Advertising, First Class Bread. It was an iconic campaign because, it sort of borrowed from what the Amul people did. Ke current times, they would comment on something or the other, and that people would read that. You see, the thought process behind this was innovation. मैं अगर आपको कहूँगा यार मेरी bread बहुत soft है, मेरी bread बड़ी अच्छी है, fresh है, ये है, beyond the point, you say, look, yaar, I'm not interested, okay? So how do I get my hook into you? And how do I get it into you at a price point which is reasonably low? I created a campaign where I'm not talking directly about the bread, but I'm talking about current events. So people are interested. So people became addicted to that Friday limerick that would be there. Ki yaar, is baar kya likh ke aaya hai? And some of it, let me tell you, was controversial as hell. It created a lot of controversies, which is as they say, there's no bad publicity. So it did extremely well for us. It got us it ran for 7 years, and it created, I think, for the kind of money that we spent, it created a huge brand awareness and huge brand equity.
So, you decided to exit, you sold the company. How and why did you decide on exiting? And what was the top line when you decided to exit?
So the thought process around exiting the company was very simple. See, bread manufacturing is a very complex, bread manufacturing and distribution. You're manufacturing a perishable product that's going to last 5 days. The other thing is manufacturing itself in Indian conditions using inconsistent raw materials, making an industrial product 400, 500,000 loaves every day, getting it right every single time is a difficult process. It's one of the most challenging industries in terms of both manufacturing and distribution. And so it takes a lot of effort to keep that going. Number one. Number two, I have 2 daughters and they have no interest in the business. So we realized that at some point, this needs to be handed over to somebody who has the understanding and the finances to take it forward. And that's the reason that we looked at exiting. In Grupo Bimbo, we found exactly the right people. They have the same mindset. They're the global leaders in the bakery space. They have a history which is very similar to ours. Goes back to 1945. So that is why and how we exited.
Top line at that time?
At that time, in 21, it was, I think, 500 crores.
And selling price?
I'm sorry?
What was the price that you exited?
Oh, I'm not at liberty to
Okay.
disclose till 25 end. So
okay.
neither is Bimbo. So
Maybe everybody should
Yeah.
stay tuned then till 25 end.
Yeah.
So what next now? I mean, you've exited. Does an entrepreneur ever hang up his boots?
Interesting question. I'm looking at a few things. An entrepreneurial journey, remember, is an all-out thing. We just talked about work-life balance. We talked about stress. And so whatever I'm thinking of, I now wonder कि मैं दोबारा करना चाहूँगा या am I looking for some, young co-founders here? So there are things that are on the anvil. There are some alternative health therapies is close to my heart. So we're looking at a cardiac venture. You hear about a lot of people, super fit people like Sushmita Sen and Nitin Kamath, I think, who recently had cardiac events. And so there is a lot of alternative solutions around that. So that's one area that I am interested in. We're evaluating how that goes forward. Let's see.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm sure that the audience has really gained. So you build, even in a difficult sort of industry, you can build a very large business very quickly and get a great exit and create wealth for all the shareholders. So thank you so much, Adil, for talking to us today. Any final words of advice to founders, young people in the room?
I think, thank you so much for having me here once again. It's been a pleasure, and it's always great to be able to share my thoughts and some of the experiences in the hope that this can be of help to future entrepreneurs. I think the one line that sort of sums up the entrepreneurial journey for all of us, Steve Jobs captured it in very elegantly. Stay hungry, stay foolish.
Baki sab bakwas.
Baki sab bakwas.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We would like to thank you, sir, for your contribution. I'm sure we all are inspired by your journey and we've learned a lot of things today. And this is a small token of gratitude from us to you. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Mr. Adil Hassan.